So, Grandma,
Hello, Jack.
thanks for thanks
What
for
can I
helping
do
me.
for you?
I was wondering about the Vietnam War. What was it like in Australia at the time?
Very, very mixed. Very mixed feelings. There are a lot of people who were against the war as far as Australia's involvement. But I can't say that I was terribly involved in it. It seemed to be more, although Australians were over there, it seemed to be more of an American involvement.
Mm-hmm. So you're saying before it was an unpopular sort of
It was
war
with a lot
here.
of people, yes.
Mm. So was that unpopularity showed here as well, or?
Oh yes, it was showed. I don't think. Our soldiers who went away didn't get the recognition when they came home that they should have. I mean, they'd been away fighting in a war, and they should have been looked after more, or given a welcome home more than they did, and they didn't get.
Yeah. So what happened when they come home?
Oh, people more or less ignored them, or said, well, had a go at them or whatever.
Mm.
They certainly weren't given any heroic, if you like, status. The fact that they'd been fighting in a war, and any man who fights in a war, deserves to be looked after by his nation, by the people who sent him away. And our Australian government, who with America, to stand with America, and that's fair enough too, because they looked after us in the Second World War, very much so. They deserve to be looked after when they come home.
Fair enough. So, what on topic of government, what did the government say to sort of give purpose to us going over there? Give a reason? Did they say anything, or just sort of we're going to fight with America?
Oh well, we're going to fight with America, but that the South Vietnamese people were did not want to be taken over by the North Vietnamese. So that was the reason. But there had been people before. I'm not sure. I'm not as au fait with the history of it as I should be. Had fought in Vietnam before. I think the French had fought in Vietnam before we had.
Japan.
Yeah, and it had never been very successful. And their mode of fighting was probably the first type of guerrilla warfare that our guys had ever come across, or that the West had ever come across, because the Vietnamese, they dug their tunnels. They dug the tunnels, and down they went, and they could get in behind lines because they were so much smaller.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Than our guys.
Yeah. So what happened?
Both Ron and Glenn fought in Vietnam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. I didn't know. I knew Ron fought, but I didn't know Glenn.
Well, Ron was became a bodyguard, if you like, for one of the South Korean generals, and he said he was one of the most corrupt blokes that you could ever find.
Really, that's interesting. Go on about that.
Yeah, into drugs and all sorts of weird and wonderful stuff.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So was it on TV? I heard it was a televised war. Was it on TV in Australia, or was that just in America?
I can't say that I can ever remember seeing it on television. I'm just trying to think what year it was. What year? Do you know?
It would have been 60s, somewhere around. I'm not sure of the exact dates, but 60s.
No, I can't say that. We'd have got news flashes or what have you, but I can't say that it was televised. Not like wars are televised now. But, you had correspondence over there. But I can't say that it was televised to the extent that the various ones are now. Like Afghanistan and Iraq and all those, no, not the same. But the guys who fought in it got a pretty bad deal, when they came back to their home countries, unfortunately.
Yeah. So was communism ever brought up as a motive to go and defend
Oh,
country?
well, always north against south. It's like the Korean War, the Vietnam War. You know, North Korean, well, communist. South Korea wasn't. Same thing. North Vietnam, the communist, and South Vietnam wasn't, and they didn't want to be taken over by the dictatorship and whatever.
Fair enough.
So I mean, it's a different story now. People are going to Korea, to Vietnam. It's a tourist attraction.
So what, in the eyes of, I guess, Australians and outsiders looking in, what did communism look like? Was it a sort of a bad thing or a good thing? Or?
No, well, it's a bad thing because it was run by one person, and if you didn't agree with it, you were annihilated.
That's fair enough.
You had to agree, and that was all there was to it. You did not have a voice or a chance to be able to say anything against communism if you lived in a communist country.
Yeah.
You didn't dare. Or you just disappeared. Thank you very much.
It's more of fascism than sort of a communist.
Oh no, well, it's hard to say.
Borderline fascism.
Yeah.
So
you weren't allowed to disagree.
For sure. So was there? I know we were talking before, and it was brought up that in theory communism would be brilliant, but of course it's never been not run by a dictator. It's always been run by
pure communism. Yes, as I said to you before.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ was the greatest communist that ever walked the earth.
And that's pretty much true. It's not socialism.
People unfortunately don't go by pure communism.
Yeah,
it's not.
It's a dictatorship.
There's always somebody who wants to be better or hold more. Greed comes into it. It's greed.
So with that opinion there, would you have had that back in the 70s?
Yeah.
So you would. So I guess I'm asking. We like as a community, as the Australian population, we very.
You'd be anti-communist.
Very
anti-communist.
Very anti.
Yes.
But would you sort of have? Because we have a level of understanding because we sort of we're not fighting, so we have some sort of level of understanding that communism itself is good. Of course
we're not fighting communism now as we used to in those days.
Exactly.
You didn't have a Cold War. We had what you call a Cold War in those years. Now you're fighting the Taliban or
terrorism.
extremists.
Terrorism.
Terrorism is something that you're fighting.
So what you're saying is that you probably weren't. So you were probably because you were probably strongly against it because you were fighting it.
Yeah.
But now you sort of can take a step back and have a wider look over it, or are you still?
I still don't agree. I wouldn't want to live in a communist country. No.
What if it was pure?
Under any circumstances.
Not even if it was pure communism.
Sorry. Because you couldn't get pure communism.
Fair enough.
I'm sorry, you wouldn't get pure communism.
Fair enough. That's fair.
There's too many people who want something different.
Yeah.
I mean, we've all got. I mean, you look at a religion. You get so many different types. You have one religion, but you've got so many sects in that one religion, and you're going to get the same.
Catholic.
Yeah. Get down. You're hurting my nose. It just doesn't work, unfortunately.
That's fair.
Because people, the basic nature, or basic human nature, is fairly base. In that, there's always somebody who wants to be better than the next person, and who wants to be leader, have more money, have a big house, or whatever. You're always going to get that. I don't care where it is.
Yeah.
I mean, even in Russia, which was which is a communist or was a communist country, you had your hierarchy, you had your higher ups, and you had your lowers. I mean, in China, what they did in communism that didn't really work out too well, they sent all the lawyers and doctors and all the higher echelon, out to the farms, and made them work in the farms.
That wouldn't have worked.
Yeah, no, well, it didn't work too well either, but and that they had like tribunals in various villages, and people who reported on other people. If you didn't adhere to this, or if you said something, you know, you were reported on and you were expelled or shot or, you know, disappeared or whatever, you know, and that's, no, thank you. That's,
fair enough, that's fair enough.
It's definitely not
Yes.
communism I
That's
would
not,
like to,
that's not communism.
I'd like to handle, thank you very much.
As I said before, that's probably slightly fascist. That's, you know, that's sort of
It's
more...
horrible.
Yeah. So, yeah, I guess Vietnam War, so we've established it wasn't a very popular war.
No, it wasn't.
Established
it wasn't
that...
popular war at all. And unfortunately it didn't have the outcome
That,
that, you know, that they wanted.
Mm.
It was the first war probably that, you know, America didn't win.
Fair enough. All right, well, I reckon that's about all the time we got, so thank you, Grandma.
My pleasure.
All right, sweet.